In this episode of Vinyl Haul, we've got a decent mix of death, heavy, and thrash, including the latest album from some true legends of metal, dare I say, invincible legends. Yeah, we're getting to that one, and others too, so stick around. First up is the second studio album from British death metal band Celestial Sanctuary. This is Insatiable Thirst for Torment, released in 2023 by Church Road Records. So a mid-paced but bang-worthy riff leads the album into tremolo madness, up-tempo riffing, and pounding beats. Vocals are between yelly and growly, but aggressive and somewhat cavernous too. What's definitely not here is predictable song structure, so no verse-chorus stuff. And while the riff and time changes are aplenty, it never sounds disjointed, and it certainly doesn't suffer from the sterility that can sometimes come with more technical death metal. I mean, the playing is certainly tight, but also with loads of heaviness and brutality, colored with moments of pure chaos, while still managing some melody and catchiness where it counts. Also, get ready for lots of pinch harmonics, because we're all over the place on this one. I would say that side 2 is overall stronger than side 1, but not by a whole lot. Anyways, vinyl variant on this one is 1 LP Purple Yellow Merge, which is considered the second pressing. I actually preferred this variant over the first pressing, which is fine, but not as cool as this one, so sometimes it's not about collectability to me. Anyways, you can go over to the Bandcamp page to see the two variants and decide for yourself. This comes with a lyric sheet, lyrics on both sides, pictures of the band, or picture of the band rather, and some credits as well. As for favorites, definitely Trapped Within the Rank Membrane, also Biomineralization Cell Death, and the lurid glow of a dead burning body. But especially Biomineralization, which I would definitely recommend you check out first. There's a music video available for the track Glutted with Chunder. You can find that at the Church Road Records YouTube channel. So lots of chugging, head-banging moments that'll give you total riff face. You know what I mean, that. Especially during the slow and chugging moments. The melodic and occasionally creepy lead work is also worth pointing out in the way it melds seamlessly with the intermittent mayhem on this album. Definitely get why so many praised this record when it came out last summer. So yeah, check this one out. Next is the debut studio album from international death thrash band Dieth. This is To Hell and Back, released in 2023 by Napalm Records. So a bit of a supergroup here, featuring ex-Entombed AD guitarist Guilherme Miranda, ex-Decapitated drummer Michael Lysezko, and of course ex-Megadeth bassist Dave Ellefson. So the album opens up with a calm acoustic passage, perhaps similar in intent to classic thrash records like Ride the Lightning and Beneath the Remains, except that it abruptly jumps to pure brutal death thrash. I mean, it just drops the hell in there. And this is probably where you can tell that this isn't going to be anything like Megadeth for the most part. I mean, for those expecting that from an Ellefson project or band. Plenty of groove, which brings this band more into the modern sound, along with moments of melodic souling that almost skitters into Testament territory here and there. Faint hints of the blackened and the progressive as well. Also, you hear plenty of cool, near isolated bass lines throughout, which of course is something I can really appreciate. And speaking of which, production on this one is certainly polished, but also fills out the heaviness quite a bit, which is often needed for a trio with only one guitar player. Of course, Ellefson's bass playing rounds out the sound nicely, as he's often known to play like a guitarist at times. Also, a couple tracks here that have gotten some criticism from others, we might as well mention this. Starting with Don't Get Mad, Get Even, which may or may not be aimed at one of Ellefson's former bandmates. The gang choruses in particular have been described as cringy or cheesy by some, but I gotta say, I disagree. After hearing the track way more than once, it became a bit of an earworm, and I actually really dig it, so no problems on my end. The other song, of course, is Walk With Me Forever, which is not only Ellefson's solo vocal debut, but a bit of a mainstream rock ballad of sorts. Other thrash bands have done this, of course, including Megadeth. Now, does it break the flow a bit? Yeah, admittedly. It doesn't fit to a large degree and maybe wouldn't be entirely missed if it was gone, but in and of itself, it is a well-written and well-performed track for what it is. But again, it's the inclusion of it here that makes it stick out and perhaps not fit well. Anyways, vinyl variant on this one is 1 LP Classic Black. Custom labels there for you. So we have an insert. Weird dude on one side. Lyrics and credits on the other. And you also get a gatefold with additional art. There you go. Very nice. As for favorites, definitely Dead Inside, also The Mark of Cain, and In the Hall of the Hanging Serpents. Which reminds me that even with the ballad, side 2 is markedly stronger and heavier than side 1. 4 music videos are out for this title, In the Hall of the Hanging Serpents, To Hell and Back, Don't Get Mad, Get Even, and Walk With Me Forever. You can check all of those out at the Napalm Records YouTube channel. So although there are a few moments of standard cliche thrash and rock bits, and I'm not always crazy about Ellefson's infrequent vocals, there's also a lot to love about this record. I mean, it's big sounding, it's occasionally bold, and it's pretty catchy at times. It is a hit or miss, but when it hits, it really hits. It's also not a straight death thrash record, so if you're looking for that, this might not be for you. But if you're curious about what Ellefson did post-Megadeth, and maybe you're good with a band that occasionally wanders away from certain genre expectations, then you might dig this one. Admittedly, it took a number of listens for me, but overall, I'm good with it. Next up is a compilation of tracks comprised of bands from the Toronto underground metal scene of the 1980s. This is Metallic Assault, released in 2021 by Urbane Grandier Records. So this comp is actually a companion of sorts to a book release called Eve of Darkness by UXB Press, which likewise chronicles the Toronto metal scene of the 1980s. Haven't checked it out yet, but will likely pick up a copy in the future. Anyways, we've got 10 bands on this album that might not exactly be household names, and the sound quality does vary from track to track, but there's still a lot of solid metal here. We get quite a bit of trad metal, but also speed, a lot of Nawabum influence, certainly power metal, and thrash as well. The material runs from 1980 to 1988, though the majority of it is from the mid-80s, especially 1984. One common factor with a lot of these tracks is the plethora of really decent metal singers who, by and large, have a lot of power and range. Seems having a strong frontman might have been a bit of an expectation back then in the Toronto metal scene, and this comp greatly benefits from that. Plenty of great riffs too, though you'll occasionally hear the basic solo played with a minimum of competence, but not often enough to be a really big deal. The final track from Crimson Tiger comes to mind. And although the geographical context is already there, there are a few bands here that share their names with bigger and more familiar acts, such as Havoc, Harlot, Banshee, and Wrath. So yeah, these aren't those. Anyways, vinyl variant on this one is 1 LP, Classic Black. It is limited to 500 copies. There you are. Also an insert, pictures of each band on one side, write-ups of each band on the other. You also get a little flyer here, a show flyer for one of the bands on the comp, such being Kraken, pretty cool, and with some additional notes on the release here as well. As for favorites, definitely Mystical Knights from Wrath, also the early Maiden-influenced Burner from Minotaur, and Assault Attack from Savage Steel. Pretty cool stuff. Anyways, living here in northern Vermont, I have a bit of familiarity with Montreal's classic metal scene, and to some degree the same in Ottawa, but Toronto's been a real blind spot for me. So hearing this comp really got me curious about their own metal history, especially since most of the material here is actually pretty good. Side 1 might be a little stronger than by side 2, but not by much. I would say that if you have a love for independently released metal from the 1980s, in the spirit of then popular comp series from labels like Roadrunner and Metal Blade, you'll definitely dig this one too. So yeah, glad I bought this. Next is the second studio album from Chilean thrash metal band Critical Defiance. This is No Life Forms, originally released in 2022 by Unspeakable Acts Records, but now issued on vinyl for the first time in 2023 by Dying Victims Productions. So extremely aggressive thrash here with frequent dips into crossover, if not 80s hardcore, notably in the yelly vocals. I'm hearing a little bit of Exploited, but by way of classic thrash. Anyways, riffs can certainly get chaotic at times, matching the equally all-over-the-place drumming, which is often a collection of manic fills for each track. Definitely catching some of the energy and hostility from early Creator and 80s Sodom, with its rapid riffing and frenzied leads. Also some infrequent abrupt riff changes and runs, which you might expect more on one of the first couple of Death Angel albums, especially on the track Elephant, which is a curious name for an instrumental, but alright. Overall, it's fair to say that Critical Defiance are indulging in a bit of old school thrash metal, but with their own spin on it. Anyways, vinyl variant on this one is 1 LP Classic Black. Alright. Track listings on the other side. So get an insert. Credits and band members are hidden in the graphic there, and lyrics on the reverse. We also get a poster of the album art. There we are. Suitable for framing. Yes. Very nice. And we also get a postcard. Picture of the band on one side. And a place to put the address on so you can send it to one of your friends. Wish you were here, I guess. Anyways, favorites on this one are The Last Crusader, Bringer of Death, as well as Warhead, Emotional Fallout, and No Life Forms. And speaking of which, there is a music video available for the title track. If you want to watch that, it is at the Critical Defiance YouTube channel. Also, I should say that the band is putting out a new album, I almost forgot, on May 24th called The Search Won't Fall, so definitely keep an eye out for that. As for this album, though, it's a speedy little 30 minutes of violent thrash metal that frequently leans into straight hardcore, mostly of the second wave variety. Really digging the crazed energy on this one, not just in the overall performance, but in the multitude of rapid time shifts. I did pass on their previous record, but after hearing this, I feel like I need to go back and give that album another chance because this one is actually pretty decent. Definitely enjoying it. So yeah, maybe check this one out. Next up is the debut EP from American heavy speed metal band Leathürbitch. This is Leathürbitch, released in 2018 by High Roller Records. So the album opens up with a rockin' mid-paced riff, quickly making its way to speed metal. Solid trad metal vocals here, often bordering on power metal, and moving between banshee screams and vibrato. Some occasional moments of early Anthrax and that whole more trad than thrash thing that record had. Though you could also throw in some Savage Grace for good measure. Overall, there are enough change-ups from track to track, bringing in some additional genre influences, including hard rock and even first-wave Sunset strip metal, notably on the track Nasty Reputation. Solos also vary a bit, ranging from ripping to almost bluesy, but still quite heavy. Anyways, vinyl variant on this one is 1 LP, Transparent Blood Red. It is limited to 300 copies. Side there. To get an insert, we've got credits, pictures of the band. On the other side, we have the girl on the cover, who is not in the band. I know a lot of people thought that initially. It is not a female-fronted band. She's just the pretty girl on the cover of the record. So there you go. Also, of course, the High Roller Records insert with the zillion amount of releases they have. As always, get your glasses on for that. As for favorites, definitely Leather and Lies, as well as Hard Ride, the latter of which, not a Raven cover. Anyways, I definitely covered this band a couple times now on the show, and I've given some favorable opinions on those full-length releases. Sonically, this 22-minute EP is clearly the beginning of things, though also well worth hearing, which is to say that although they improve on those following albums, this EP is by no means a slouch. I should point that out. If you wanted to check out this band, you could start with this EP, but know that they develop a bit later on. Next is the second studio album from American melodic death doom band Fires in the Distance. This is Air Not Meant for Us, released in 2023 by Prosthetic Records. So a meandering melodic riff leads into and melds with a combination of a soaring guitar passage and some slight symphonic elements, then to a crushing riff underneath vocal growls not too dissimilar to Paradise Lost. In fact, there are two vocalists here, Craig Brettsprecher and Christian Grimaldi, providing some contrast with their combination of low gutturals and raspy screams. As you could imagine, there are strong gothic overtones here, further punctuated with frequent piano passages and other atmospheric keys. Very strong on the melodic, but it is a melancholic melody for the most part, and there's still plenty of crushing heavy moments throughout, so they certainly don't skimp on any of that. However, those moments, like much of the music here, will be slow to mid-paced, contributing to the underlying doom side of things. Anyways, vinyl variant on this one is 1 LP, Red Smoke. Here. Also an insert, picture of the band, lyrics on the reverse. As for favorites, definitely Harbingers, great song, also Crumbling Pillars of a Tranquil Mind, and Idiopathic Despair. Also the instrumental track that opens side 2, such being Adrift Beneath the Listless Waves, is also worth checking out. Music videos available for the tracks Wisdom of Falling Leaves and Crumbling Pillars of a Tranquil Mind, as well as a lyric video for Harbingers, all out. You should check them out at the Prosthetic Records YouTube channel. So even though there are only 6 songs on this album, the tracks themselves are quite long, averaging between 7 to 9 minutes apiece, and those lengths might result in lack of patience for some. I'd say that if you like late-era Paradise Lost and Insomnium, but also maybe Omnium Gatherum, and Fires in the Distance might fit well within your wheelhouse. I definitely dig it, but I can also see where this might be a challenging listen for the more strictly death metal fans. Alright, let's do this. Here's the 19th studio album from British heavy metal legends Judas Priest. This is Invincible Shield, released in 2024 by Epic Records. So opening with a turbo-esque synth and guitar passage, the record soon enough switches gears to a building riff and pounding drums, and then straight into the fray with Halford's signature power wails and gritty high-pitched screams in the form of Panic Attack. Solid album opener, and clearly channeling a bit of Painkiller. In addition to Rob's still strong vocals, you've got the killer combo of Faulkner and Tipton, trading leads at a furious rate, at times shreddy and aggressive, and at other times delving into cool melodic harmonies. I was reminded throughout that I'm really going to miss Glenn when he goes, but on a lighter note, I'm hearing quite a bit of groove as well, notably in The Serpent and the King, Devil in Disguise, and Escape from Reality, but certainly elsewhere too. There's also some faint and not so faint reaching back of sorts to the band's past. I mean, not just a Painkiller and Turbo, but even Stained Class, Sin After Sin, and British Steel. I hear it in the vocal harmonies, some of the riff delivery, and in the occasional chorus. The title track certainly has some of that. But we're still getting a modern Judas Priest record, but even still, I can appreciate that level of revisiting without it being ham-handed or overdone. I'm also digging the pacing of this record. We've got a nice complementary mix of anthems, rippers, and more ponderous and slower tracks as well. Nice peaks and valleys, which never allows the record to fall into stagnancy. I seem to remember Firepower falling into that sort of a rut for the last few tracks, by comparison, so there's that. Also, just a note about the closing track, Giants in the Sky. It's a respectful tribute to the late Ronnie James Dio and the late Lemmy Kilmister, and I do dig it. The acoustic bridge in particular was a bit unexpected, but it works. I might have ended the record on a more triumphant note, but as always, I'm not in the band. I'm just an opinionated bastard with a YouTube channel, so there you go. One complaint I do have about Invincible Shield, albeit very, very minor, is the lack of the 3 bonus tracks on the vinyl editions, because there really is ample room on the 2 records for it. I'm seeing 10 minutes of music on side 1, 15 on side 2, 15 on side 3, and almost 13 minutes on side 4. Again, plenty of room for those tracks, and in practical terms, there was no need to have them on a separate 7-inch record. Unless, of course, the band didn't have as much faith in those songs to include them on the album proper. And that might be valid. I mean, it also depends on how you feel about the songs and how long you'd like the album to be. Maybe they thought about that as well. I guess I'm just saying that there was plenty of room on the record for them. And I'll just leave it there. Anyways, vinyl variant here is 2 LP Purple. It is limited to 500 copies. It is the Judas Priest UK web store exclusive variant, in case you're wondering. I haven't seen much of this variant at all, either on social media or on YouTube. It seems most folks wanted the red or the blue or the black or even the hot pink, but purple somehow got left behind. So in case you hadn't seen it, there it was. Anyways, favorites on this one include Panic Attack, of course. Also has God Is My Witness and Invincible Shield, but also so many others. I mean, it's ultimately pretty hard to limit myself to just 3. You might be finding that out as well. Anyways, music videos are out for Trial by Fire, Panic Attack, Crown of Horns, and Invincible Shield, as well as a visualizer video for The Serpent and the King. You can watch all of those at the Judas Priest YouTube channel. Oh, and since I almost forgot, we've got a gatefold on this one, some credits, really cool artwork continuing there. Also, I really do dig the inner sleeves. Very colorful, like the cover, with full lyrics, but also you get pictures illustrating each of the tracks. I really like that quite a bit. It's a cool idea. Record 2's inner sleeve also has the same theme going on there. You can see that as well for side 4. So I know a lot of folks are comparing this record to their previous one, that being Firepower. I mean, some like this a whole lot more. Some say this falls short. As for me, I definitely think this album mostly has its own personality from Firepower, and so I don't hear the amount of similarity that others do. In fact, there is definitely more variety here than on the last record. I'm also appreciating the interplay between Faulkner and Tipton considerably more on this album, and I feel at times it's more musically compelling. Also, Halford's voice sounds better here. Of course, he might have got some studio help in that regard, but as far as my ears are concerned, I simply don't care about that. I mean, I don't know if he did or he didn't. I'm just saying if he did, I don't give a shit. Overall, I'm getting a solid Priest record full of cool melodies, lots of shred, anthems galore, and I even love this goddamn cover art, which I know some of you really enjoy bitching about. Anyways, at this point, it almost goes without saying that this is an amazing record, and I would more than recommend it. So go buy it. All right, finish this video first, then go buy it. So just a couple other records that I picked up that I have less to talk about, but are certainly worth showing. Let's start with the 4th studio album from American progressive death metal band Horrendous. This is Idol, originally released in 2018, but reissued in 2023 by Season of Mist. So I already talked about this record in episode 2 of Hook Me Up when Eric introduced me to it. So if you want more details on it, I would recommend you check that video out. But yeah, finally got my own copy, and here it is. Favorites on this one are The Idolater, Devotion, Blood for Ink, and Obelisk. Also, the vinyl variant here is crystal clear, green, and black marbled. It is limited to 600 copies. Same on the reverse. Also have an insert, additional artwork on one side, and some credits and the like on the reverse. Also, photo of the band on the gatefold. Pretty cool. I also picked up an 8-song compilation of cover tunes from American thrash metal band Anthrax. This is Anthems, originally released in 2013, but reissued in 2023 by Megaforce Records. In fact, this reissue on pink vinyl, in case you want to see that color, there you go, has 2 additional covers from the original version, both Black Math, originally done by the White Stripes, and Carry On Wayward Son, originally by Kansas. But they did drop the Anthrax penned track Crawl, as well as its remix, to make room for it. There was a hype sticker on this, which I managed to toss, that mentioned that color variant was to promote breast cancer research, or something like that. You can tell how carefully I read it. In case you're wondering about that choice in color. Anyways, favorites of this one are TNT, originally by AC/DC, Big Eyes, originally by Cheap Trick, and Jailbreak, originally by Thin Lizzy. Of course, I usually don't like cover tunes, let alone cover tunes albums, but this one's pretty decent. I like the selection of songs they picked. Pretty alright. It's Anthrax. You'll hear it. So definitely happy with this month's haul, notably the new Judas Priest, of course, but also Celestial Sanctuary and Critical Defiance. What did you get? You should definitely let me know what you got, what you might get, or even whatever is good on streaming that you're listening to at the time. Tell me that and anything else that makes sense in the comments below. Of course, if this is your first time to my channel, just so you know, my name is Matt. This is the Accusation Network, where each and every week I do videos on metal vinyl collecting. I also do videos on classic and modern metal in general. If that sounds like something you want to watch, you should definitely remember to give this video a like, but do subscribe to my channel if you haven't already done so. And as always, share my videos with some of your friends on social media. Other than that, thank you for watching. and I'll see you in the next video.